Good morning, everyone. I'm Jeff Swanson, and I'd like to remind all my friends that today, Friday, June 7th, is National Gun Violence Awareness Day. You can see I'm wearing this orange shirt. I hope you can find something orange to wear too. About 6 years ago, a young lady named Hadiah Pendleton, just 15 years old, was shot and killed in Chicago. It was just a week or so after she had performed in President Obama's inauguration ceremony. And Hadiah's friends decided to wear orange to honor her life, to remember her, and to call attention to the problem of gun violence that claimed Hadiah's life. So what does today mean? Well, for me, it's kind of a day of reflection. I hope it's a day of national soul searching about this problem. You know, remembering the lives of the tens of thousands of people who die every year in the United States as a result of a gunshot. About 2/3 or so of them are suicides who die by their own hand. We have way more gun violence, by a mile, than any other advanced country like Canada or the UK or Australia or the countries in Western Europe. It's kind of a special problem in our country. About 100 people every single day. You don't hear about them on the day when there's a mass shooting. You hear about that, but this is the drip, drip, drip of gun violence. So it's a day of soul searching, and to remember that every one of those people is a life, a person with a story, a life that's cut short with family members, loved ones that are left behind to grieve. It's such a terrible waste. And you know what? It's preventable. It doesn't have to be this way. So it should be a day of hope that one day we will live in a society with fewer people dying as a result of a gunshot. And a day of commitment to actually do something about it. Well, what can we do? Actually, there's a lot we can do. We could support stronger and more sensible gun laws in our country. I mean, sure, let's agree that guns are part of our culture, and the right to own a gun, a private individual's right to own a gun, is protected by our Constitution, as interpreted by the Supreme Court of our country. Guns are here to stay, they're not going anywhere. But that doesn't mean we should tolerate living in a society where really dangerous people have easy access to guns. We could, for example, require that everybody get a permit to purchase a gun and pass a background check for every gun sale, and make sure that the records that actually identify people who aren't legally supposed to have a gun, aren't eligible right now, that those records are there when somebody tries to buy a gun. We could really beef up enforcement of the laws that we already have against illegal gun trafficking. And we could have better rules, actually, at the point of sale, so that we have more of the people who really are dangerous prohibited from buying a gun. People who have a criminal record of a violent crime, even if it's a misdemeanor, or people who have multiple DUIs. We know that's related to violent behavior. People who've been subject to a temporary domestic violence order of protection, or people in a serious mental health crisis who are detained and brought into a hospital, even if they're not involuntarily committed. So people like that, maybe they shouldn't be able to buy a gun. And we could also have every state pass an extreme risk protection order law. Sometimes they're called red flag laws. A lot of states are doing that now. That just gives police officers the clear legal authority to search for and remove guns from people who are at a high risk of harming others or themselves, at least temporarily. It's a non-criminalizing measure using the civil court process, and it's a tool that police can use and want to use, and for family members also. You might have a family member, you're really worried about them, they have guns, and this would be a way to possibly save their lives. And we know from research that these kinds of laws can save lives. We also need to reflect on the root causes of violence and self-injury and what we could do about that. Invest in having healthier communities with fewer people who are living in desperate poverty, with kids growing up exposed to violence and or victims of violence and might grow up to be perpetrators of violence. We could invest in communities and have a better social safety net, more opportunities for people. Opportunities for people to really know each other and trust each other, even though they come from diverse backgrounds. I mean, it's easy to get discouraged, when you look at how divided people are over the issue of gun control, and you see, one of these horrible mass casualty shootings. They're so disturbing and so irrational, and then you see our national lawmakers send their thoughts and prayers and then sit on their hands. And you think maybe nothing can be done and nothing will ever change. Well, I don't believe that. I think things will change. I think there's a sea change in public opinion right now. And now is the time to really focus on this and commit ourselves to not only being aware, but doing something about it. There's a lot happening at the state level. A majority of Americans now live in a state with stronger and more sensible gun laws than was the case at the time of the terrible shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School. So there is progress. You actually have a chance to influence your state lawmakers. You can let your voice be heard. So wear orange today. And maybe, join one of the national gun violence prevention advocacy organizations or your local advocacy organization. Let your voice be heard, No more silence. Let's stop gun violence.